Hello, Ashley. Is anything going on?
Hi, yes. With the upgrade, I have some questions.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that's why we're here.
Let me bring it up real quick. So the problems we've been having are with the in cataloging, the edit item button is now managed.
Yeah.
That's been causing a lot of confusion, and a lot of our librarians have been doing batch edit and changing everyone's things.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know if there was a way we could change it back, or if I can batch remove their permissions for batch edit, because they technically only need the batch edit button if they're doing a big moving of their, you know, I guess in their stacks if they need to. And I did talk to my director, and she said if we need to remove their permissions to do that, we can. But it's happened with four of our librarians already. And it would, yeah.
Well, I think you do have three options there. One is to let them all, do something to get the message out to them that edit items is now manage items or whatever it is. Um, and ultimately, I think that's probably the best way to deal with it.
Um,
But you
did
should be able using jQuery or JavaScript to change the text of that drop down link from manage items back to edit items. Um, and you should also be able to take away everybody's permission to use batch edit. So all three of those things are options. Um,
I did
Are you
send out.
using the batch permissions modification plugin?
I've never used one before, but that's what I was wondering about how to do that, because I think that's what I'll need to do. Because I did send out an email about, the change in the wording, and then I sent out another one when those mistakes started happening, and it's been happening since that email. So I don't think it's helping.
Yeah, that would be my route would be to take the permissions away because we generally don't let them batch edit anyways because it's pretty dangerous. Um,
yeah,
so
I think only my staff here at our office have the ability to do batch editing.
We have a couple libraries that just do a lot of them because they have like a bookmobile and they need to change statuses. And so we've shown them how to do it, but that's very limited.
I don't think any of our libraries really need to have that. And I think it's just an honest mistake. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
But it causes a lot of problems, because especially when the original items aren't in the modification log, so I just look up their barcodes and see the first couple digits where they're from.
actually, I just thought of a third possibility. Um, so there's a bunch of factors here about using the batch permissions editor. So that's a plugin. Are you the person that manages permissions for the people at your libraries?
Yeah.
And so
And
you would know
I
whether or not you've
I
got
am I am new to the position,
yeah, I
so
know.
yeah.
I know exactly where you are right now, to tell you the truth. So so yeah, if you're the person that manages the permissions for people, and if you have the batch permissions editor set up,
I
that
do.
would be one option. And if you don't have it set up, here's the problem if you don't have it set up, is that what the batch permissions editor does is it allows you um, to create a template, and you assign that template. You create a borrower, you set them up with the permissions that you want the like a class of employees to have, and then you run the tool and you say everybody that's on this list, make their permissions match the template.
Oh,
And so the thing about that is that you've got to make sure that, so if you have some employees that have like 2 cataloging permissions and some employees that have 3, and you can't put those into the same group together,
mhm.
because when you run the tool, it's going to make them all the same. So if you've got a lot of individualized, if you've got a lot of people that have some specialized permissions that only they have, then it kind of it kind of makes that tool difficult to use if you've got, if you're just trying to use it for the first time. And Bob's, I think, sharing the screen, he's going to show you how it works.
Yeah, so this is how you set it up. It's pretty simple. You just create these templates, and so you can see we have multiple ones. And then there's a patron list that you maintain, and those are the numbers for the patron list. And so you just add people to the list and then update. And then, yeah, when you go to do it, all you have to do is just run the tool. And like if I make changes and I click on this, it'll just update whatever changes I've made. And for us, like we have a lot of logins, so they just introduced that new copy feature where you can now copy, which is nice, permissions
Yeah.
from somebody else's. But if there's like an upgrade and we want to add like a permission or take away a permission for everybody, we would have to do that like 85 or more like 95 times. So this makes it, even if I have 3 different templates, that's just, 3 things I have to modify, and then I just run this 3 times. And then, yeah, you can see in this case, 120 permissions were updated. So huge time saver.
Yeah, that'll definitely come in handy because right now we're working on new cataloging training standards. So each librarian needs to have their own login. And so once they pass the quiz, they get granted basic cataloging permissions. And
Good
all
plan.
I've been doing, we're trying to clean it all up. What I've been doing is I made a new librarian account, a basic one and an advanced, and I've just been copying and pasting those permissions. But this will be nice.
Yeah.
Get 6 people a day I need to do. I don't have to go in there and do them individually.
Yeah, then you just set up a template that has, we do that with our Department of Corrections libraries, where we have individual logins versus just general library logins. And so there are staff that don't have permissions to catalog because they haven't been trained yet. And then everything else is the same. So all we do is you just switch them off the list and then run that tool, and then done, easy. And then it's nice and consistent too.
So that's one way I would that's the goal, what I would recommend. As an interim step, what occurs to me is that, we talked about an interim step would be to rename manage items to edit items. You could go in with some JavaScript or jQuery and just remove batch edit from that dropdown,
Yeah.
so that doesn't even appear. And that didn't occur to me until a moment ago. And so I'm on the koha-US demo. Let's find a patron. Well, I guess I can do, let's find an item. So edit items in batch. That's the one you want to get rid of, right?
Yeah.
So Oh, it even has a button ID. So that should be the jQuery needed to get rid of it, but I want to make sure that it only affects this page. That should do it. So I'm going to put this in the chat box. So if you put that code in your in your system preference IntranetuserJS, that should make that batch edit disappear from all of your pages.
Awesome.
So that can fix your problem until you get the batch permission set up for all your users.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll have to do, especially because right now there's so many different accounts that everyone's using.
That'll be the fastest way to do it.
Thank
And
you.
then once you've got everybody set up with the proper permissions, you can take that code out and everything will be back to normal.
Yeah. Thank you. That is huge. Yeah, because that's been a big one right now. It's been, yeah, happening.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a problem with batch permissions, but it seems like we had a problem with somebody accidentally deleting, like batch deletion was a bigger deal for us. We had, because that, yeah, it seems like we had an incident one time where somebody accidentally deleted all the items at another library. That was a while ago, though. That was a long time ago.
When we were on the libline version, they had a very different batch edit tool, and it did some things better, but it was very easy if you didn't like check a box to limit by branch, you changed it for every library. So we had a few major issues with that. Because instead of like submitting a barcode list or you could just say like, we'll change all the shelving locations from this branch to this. And if you did not set that up correctly, it was a disaster. So
Sounds awesome.
Sometimes can save some time, but I'm kind of glad we have to do it a little bit more deliberately.
That was fun. Anything else going on? Jason and I were just talking before you and Bob got here about the Kager meeting. Have you ever been to one of those yet? The Kansas Koha users group?
Kansas
see,
Koha Explorers Group. You can come
I
too,
came
Bob.
here. I came here to learn more about what was going on in Kansas, but Juliet is joining us now. So
Yeah.
State between us.
Yeah, you can come
Well-
too. Well, it's in Manhattan, the next one, so that's not that far to drive, right?
Right?
easier for me than Juliet, I think.
I don't know if you come straight down through Nebraska.
Yeah, maybe
not that
maybe
far.
it's not too bad.
I've driven that before because I went to school in Oklahoma. So
Oh. And did you go through Manhattan or did you go through some other dark, leery Kansas place?
I had a friend that lived in Colby, so I went through there.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about anything fun or interesting?
We just finished talking about manage items versus edit items.
Oh,
Is
I
that
saw
squaring
the
it?
bug when they were discussing that, and it was confusing then, and it's still a little confusing now.
I didn't know that I didn't ever see the bug before it changed, and I'm not sure I understand why it needed to change, so. And I'm not gonna go back and read that. I don't need a bug number or anything. I just filed a bug the other day, and let me see if I can find it now. I can never find Bugzilla when I want it. So I had an issue where somebody ran a report that we have showing them all of the items added. They were doing a bunch of different, I want to see all the items added in a specific year report. And there were things that they expected to be on the report that weren't on the report. Here it is, 39401. And I'll put that in the chat box. And the reason that they weren't getting the results they wanted is because they had set the date accession date into the future. So the date accession, and then after we figured out what was wrong, I ran another report to figure out all of the items that we had that hadn't been added yet, that were added but hadn't been added yet, that all had a date accession in the future, and I had found over 100 of them. Though I haven't fixed this one yet. It was
Was there a
added.
reason they were setting them in the future?
I know. They didn't
Because I've
know
never
there was-
tried. It never occurred to me to try.
Yeah,
We actually have some jQuery, so it just populates the current date.
yeah, it's built into Koha. If you click in that field, it'll just fill in today.
Yeah, we don't even have to click. It just shows up. We
Just
don't even
shows
trust
up.
people to click.
So I haven't deleted this. I haven't fixed this one, but our newest item won't be added until January 12th, 7788. So about 5,000 years from now, 5,050 years from now, before that item will be added. And so what I put in the bug is item date accession should prevent future dates. And then I amended that to optionally prevent future dates because Kate said, well, what if somebody wants to put a future date in there for an item they've ordered? I would just like to not be able to do future dates for our system. So I did file that bug like about a week or so ago. I guess 320, so exactly a week ago, I filed the original bug and then I updated it this morning when I saw Kate's comment on it. So one of the things you can do, the Koha in almost all the instances now uses the flat picker date tool. It's that little calendar that pops up when you go to type things in. And there are ways to set the flat picker put constraints on it. But I can't figure out how to modify the constraints on that particular flat picker. And I don't know if it's because of the way the table loads or what, but I can't get that one to work right. But I have other instances in Koha where you should be able to add some JavaScript to say, only show dates in the past, only allow dates in the past, only allow dates in the future, only allow dates with a maximum. You can set a minimum date and a maximum date. But this one is resistant to all of my attempts to hack it. So that's why I put the thing in Bugzilla. So I thought everybody should be aware of that. And that's kind of not just a Consortia issue, that's like an everybody issue probably. So if I've got a report somewhere that you can run too that will show you all of the things that you haven't added yet that you've added to the system.
Looking at that comment about on order dates, and it makes sense, but I'm not sure that vendors are sending item information on with like the accurate release dates
Yeah,
anyway. So, I mean, they could, but it seems like not a. I mean, what value do you get from having something perfectly accurate there?
Yeah, I don't know. Kate said she could see an argument for it, so I said at least, I'm happy to say, there should at least optionally be a way to prevent future dates.
Yeah, no, it's true.
If somebody wants future dates, I'm happy to let them have that. And it doesn't make sense to me, but if somebody wanted it, I don't want to say you can't have it. So I think everything that gets done should have some kind of control on it to be optional. That's one of the things I don't like about the when you download a report now, it filters out all the HTML. So there were instances where I didn't want the HTML. There are some instances where I want to run a report and I don't want the HTML filtered out of it, but now I can't do that. I've got to go a different route to get that data. So it was nice to be able to run a report and then have something that I could cut and paste quickly into a website. And now I can't do that. I have to find another way to trick Koha into producing the result I want. So the one thing I put on the agenda is what's up for Bywater Solutions customers after upgrading to 24.11. We've already heard from Ashley. Anybody else having any issues since the upgrade that are related to Consortia or that they want to talk about?
One thing that I don't think is related, but we have one of the librarians for our Department of Corrections is trying to go through and search their authorities and merge a bunch of stuff. And they just keep on getting errors whenever there's a lot of results. So I don't know if that's upgrade related, but if anything has like 200 results, which is, not unreasonable for the general authorities search, that they're getting intermittent errors and then things are just bogging down.
I haven't done an authority search that's generated a lot of results.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing those very purposefully because it's a mess. I don't want to waste time pretending I can fix, but
Well, I just did an authority search that generated 758 results, and I'm not getting any errors. So
you're not getting errors. Yeah, so something's not.
I just searched authority main headings for Bob, and there are 758 results, and I'm not having any trouble so far.
Yeah, and then sometimes they'll get it up, and then when they tab to the second page, it'll throw that error. So they keep on getting bad data in from vendor imports, and I'm wondering if that keeps on causing a host of problems, and I'm wondering if that could be part of it.
I've had that be an issue where bad diacritics in mark records have caused searches to fail.
Yeah, they keep on getting these tickets where it's like, I'm getting this error, and then it's like, well, yes, that's yet again because the record you imported had bad data in the item data, missing item data, bad mark data. So yeah, that's maybe don't import it before they start to fix their process, but keep chugging along.
Yeah, I've got an issue with bad indexing data right now. Like somebody had brought in a bad record for Dunkirk, and when I search it in the staff client, there's a record, but when you click it, it's not there. but then when I search it in the OPAC, I can't search Dunkirk. It gives me a 500 error because of that junky record that's there but not there. So I would guess it's marked data that's screwing up your authority stuff for sure.
Our department of corrections group is much smaller, so I don't recall ever having this issue before with our larger group.
I ran into something not consortial related, but I filed a bug this morning about the allow finds need override system preference. We've had that turned on forever, and basically what that does is if the patron has any sort of fines, it pops up a circ notification that says, hey, this patron has $2, are you sure you want to check out, even though our limit is 10. Since the upgrade and maybe before, it started looping in guarantor guarantee relationships. So if a kid doesn't have fines, but their parent and their parents' other kids have fines, it pops up a confirmation box that says, hey, your parent has $70 in fines. Are you sure you want to check out to this kid? Which we absolutely don't. We don't use that functionality. We don't want to restrict the kid from being able to use their card just because their parents is mucked up. So it feels like that system preference is doing too much and doing more than it's advertising now. So I put in a bug about that needs to be more granularly configured. It'd be nice. There's 3 different cert confirmations related to fines. There's like the patron has a fine, the patron's guarantees have a fine, and the patron's guarantors and guarantees have a fine. So it would make sense to have like those things independently configurable. So I put that bug in there. I think we're just gonna have to turn that off for now because I don't want an untrained circ staff like seeing that pop up and being like, oh no, your dad has fines, you can't check out.
I need to confirm that on my system if that's a problem for us too. Because I haven't heard anybody report that issue, but
Yeah, and I don't know how long it's been an issue. Like a lot of my libraries aren't using guarantor guarantee relationships. So like if they don't run into it if that linkage isn't made. But one of my libraries that does heavily use them ran into it and it caused some alarm.
And you don't have anything set up for the no issues charge guarantors?
Correct. Those are blanked out, which is why I was extra frustrated
Yeah, that
that
should,
this other system preference is still like acknowledging it.
I would think that we would see that too, but I haven't heard anything from my staff about it.
Well, if it's all in my head, let me know. Put it on the bug ticket. But I was able to replicate it with the specific patron that they had called me about.
Another thing that I had one of my libraries run across that so we use Aspen, so we kind of stopped using any lists in Koha. But they were running into where their private lists aren't showing up in the private lists tab when you look at your lists. And sometimes it'll put them in the public list tab. I don't know, it's weird. And I think there's a bug related. They put a ticket into Bywater, but I was confused because we haven't used lists in over a year.
Yeah, there were some bootstrappy things broken with those tabs. So like for us, you have to click on public lists and click on private lists, and then it reverses the list of lists. It was really buggy. I also had permission issues with lists, like because they added a bunch of permissions for lists, and people that had access to public lists before didn't have any of the list permissions anymore. So I had to go through and check everybody's permissions. Um, and I put this bug in, which is tangentially related, but I discovered in all of this that, you know, the your list tab is just your private list. It's not your private and public list. So we have a bunch of public lists that people have forgotten that they've created because they're not in that your list tab. So I think that would be a good improvement.
It would be nice to have your branches lists too, or something like that.
Well, it would be nice in the OPAC if there was some kind of filtering on the lists, because right now they just get all the public lists are there. When you go to public lists, there's no way to search the lists or filter the lists or do anything with the lists. At the very least, it'd be nice if they were a data table. But I don't worry about that so much anymore since we are also using Aspen Discovery. So I think you might be the only non-Aspen
Everyone but
person
Jason.
here, Jason. And the
Yeah.
Colorado Department of Corrections.
Oh, they use it.
I thought they were using the Koha OPAC. No, that was somebody else. Okay.
No, they've got a lockdown version that's restricted by IP. So
I'm thinking there was somebody at the last koha-US conference talked about using their Koha OPAC strictly for Department of Corrections, and I was thinking that was you, but it wasn't you. It was somebody else.
no, I actually did a presentation at the Aspen conference about how we're doing it.
And I'm conflating those two
Mhm.
because I saw both of those presentations. There was another library at the koha-US conference in Round Rock where they said now that we're not using the Koha OPAC, we've completely reestablished it strictly for our Department of Corrections libraries. And I was conflating that with yours, which is this is how we set up Aspen for the Department of Corrections. So when you can just
talking to other groups that manage prison libraries, very few have access to like any sort of OPAC. So it's pretty cool to actually provide that service. Not everywhere, not in the high level places. They do not see it.
thanks for putting the bug numbers in there for those two bugs.
That's
Jason.
Jason's unofficial duty at all
I know.
meetings.
I can't remember this stuff, so I have to be able to like find it in Bugzilla because my brain has stopped working lately. And it's stored over there now.
I was looking at our tickets to see if we had anything else.
I wrote my first patch, which is consortially related, and it's in failed QA right now. If you guys want to look at that.
Yeah, I'd love to look at that.
I just haven't had a chance to go back and change it. But the idea, we've been working on this in the baby devs, so it's sort of like a tutorial type thing too. The idea is like when you click the holds queue link, it should take you directly to your branch's holds queue instead of having to click through a second set of filters. So this just changes also all those links to include the branch code in it by default. But apparently I did it wrong, so still working on it.
It's a good idea for staff. That's a bad idea for me.
Well, the idea was like for the bulk of libraries, it reduces the click, and then even if you run it, you still get those filters on the left. So if you need to filter it differently, you've still got the option. It's not any more clicks.
It's true.
But if you don't like it, you can add a comment that says, I hate this and I don't think it should be a feature. So
I love this for my libraries. I could also just set the library to the library too. It's not like that big of a deal, but
I encourage our staff not to use the built-in holds queue. They use the report that I've got pumped onto the homepage for the priority holds queue.
I have reports that they do a different one each day for mine, and I was able to put it into the new intranet main user block that they moved so that I can just do it for my branch and not the other branches. I'm very excited about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. they have a button to click on for what day it is, and it'll just take them to that report, because they have different ones based on which libraries are picking up stuff. That reminds me of a bug I was looking at today. Where did it go? It's to add the circulation homepage to the HTML customizations. And then they have one to do that for the reports homepage too. It doesn't look like there's any work on it, but it seems like they could probably do the same thing that they've done for all the other homepages.
Make those part of that tool instead of a separate system preference. Seems like
Yeah.
they added one for acquisitions. Is that a system preference or is that a customization page? Seems like that got added. It got added a version or two ago, and it's one that we don't use, so.
I used the one for the patron page to add our tips and tricks for registering patrons to the bottom of the page, which I don't know if anybody reads it, but makes me happy.
It looks like in the tools section, the staff acquisitions home, staff authorities home, staff cataloging home, staff lists home, staff patrons home, staff POS home, and staff serials home are all there. So my guess is that whoever's been putting things into the HTML customizations just hasn't gotten around to those yet.
Yeah.
We use our circulation home is where I have our library directory for all our different libraries. So. And I like the intranet home system preference now. I used to use jQuery to set up tabs so that there's different tabs in that. And I can do that all with Bootstrap now that we've upgraded Koha to Bootstrap
Nice.
5, I guess it is. So it reduced the amount of code that I had to use, which is always a good thing. Now it's all HTML.
Well, I finally worked out, since the upgrade broke my kids catalog really a lot, and I had to upgrade the plugin. I finally figured out how to do like a default branch search thingy on my kids OPAC. I can show that.
Cool.
Shoot. If I don't go fast enough, the numbers go away on my share screen. I don't know which one to go to. Okay. So I added a drop down. So our kids OPACs are mostly entirely being used as like kiosks at libraries. So there's one sitting on an iPad up front. But the searching wasn't limited to that branch. So like the kid would walk up and push the little icon and then it'd say, hey, there's a book about dinosaurs over in Moran. You can go get it. So we wanted to change it so that it was limited to just the branch which they were setting in and the items that were available there. So I worked this out where like I hard coded a drop down of the libraries, and whenever you pick the library, it adds it to the session storage, whatever branch you've picked, and then that hides the branch code in the search parameters and a hidden input here. So whatever you pick in here gets put there. So then whenever you search for something, it automatically limits to that branch. And since it's in session storage, it remembers like, or not session storage, local storage, it remembers between searches. So like they can set a default branch for searching and it sticks. The only problem is these buttons don't update. I haven't worked that out yet. So like this one says Arma, but if I change the drop down, it's still Arma until I refresh the page. But I'm making progress on that, and that's been on my to-do list for like ever, which I'm happy that I accomplished something that people have been asking for. And it works
You
pretty well.
probably need to add some kind of on change function to that drop down, so whenever you change it, it updates
Yeah, and I've got
all the
one
links.
for that hidden input, but it wasn't reading, like it was breaking those circles for whatever reason. Like it would
Oh,
just take them off the page instead of replacing the link. So I hadn't worked that out quite yet.
And your kids' catalog is on the Koha OPAC?
Yeah, we're using the Children's OPAC plugin that
Oh, okay.
it's a mess. I can show you that. Um, it's not a mess. It's a great plugin. Mine is heavily customized, and the boxes are full of custom code. So it's the Children's OPAC theme plugin, and it's configured like this. So we've got the separate URL for it. It's limiting to our juvenile books collection, and then I have all of this extra code in doing crazy extra stuff. And then you can also set custom CSS for that too. The main thing that's broken right now with it is like if you click save and exit, it gives you an error. Ooh, maybe not. Maybe Lucas got that fixed. I lied. It's working great now. No more
Oh.
errors.
cool.
If you're, so that's like a separate public facing place. So you could set that up and have it outside of, like if you're using Aspen, it could be a separate URL they go to. The main thing is when you have it set up, you do have to have Bywater go in and like turn off the native CSS or it looks funky. It doesn't work until they've done some stuff on the back end.
Okay.
Anything else cool anybody's been doing? Anybody else have any problems?
The only other thing I could find of in my tickets is somebody exceeding the amount of holds that they're limited to on an item type. And the only I could determine it came from Aspen. So my only theory right now is that because everything's working, if I try to place an additional hold, it's stopping both on Koha and Aspen, is that with some delays that we've been seeing between communication between Aspen and Koha, if they place them all close together and those holds didn't exist yet, that message is still getting through, then maybe you could get more in through the door before they were showing up. That's the only theory I have because I cannot recreate the problem.
Most of my libraries don't have limits on the number of holds that can be placed. But at the times that I've seen that happen before, it's been because there's a limit at one branch that's different than a limit at another branch. And so that can sometimes be a conflict where all of the items being requested are not available are not owned by the branch that has the lower limit, and so they're getting their holds placed on the library where the limit is higher, and that creates a conflict. if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've had a couple of libraries complain about hold limits recently, and I've still not been able to nail that down either. So like most of my libraries have hold limits set at 25 every across the board because that was like the arbitrary value we had that got copied into every rule, which is a whole other thing. But like there was one library where they were trying to place holds on DVDs, and it's only in the OPAC, I guess. But like they got up to 5 and it wouldn't let them place anymore. And I don't have a hold limit of 5 set anywhere. But the patron was getting an error saying you've reached your hold limit. And then I heard about that from a different library where they had gotten up to like 20 and they hit that hold limit again. I thought maybe it was because like if you place multiple holds at once, it would let you, but it turns out if you try to place like 40 holds at once, it take in the OPAC, it takes you to it places the first 25 and takes you to your summary page, and it doesn't give you any sort of error that says those other holds didn't get placed. It's just up in the URL, it says error or something like that. That's a bug. Um, so I've been having hold issues too, but I can't nail them down either, Bob. I don't know. But we don't use Aspen, so it's got to be something within Koha for us.
Yeah, like I said, I think most of our libraries have removed their limits on the number of holds that can be placed. So I haven't had an issue with hold limits in quite a while.
That would be great, but I don't think I'm,
Yeah.
not in a position to make that argument, so.
The libraries that I have that do have hold limits are like the ones that have absolutely no reason to have a hold limit. It's like your books aren't checking out anyway. Why not let them go? Why not let somebody place 25 holds? That way you might actually have more circ than 50 or 60 a
Yeah.
month. So
Yeah, I'm not sure why anybody cares that there's 12 holds on DVDs versus 10. Beyond me, but it's the policy, so I suppose we should try to enforce it.
Oh, I have a
we got,
question, I guess, a
yeah, okay.
consortially related question. Um, when you guys send notices, what time of day do you send them, and do you send them all at the same time of day for all branches?
Like 3 a.m. and yeah.
So okay.
That's what we're set for.
We changed ours to 7 a.m. at some point, because people were complaining about getting pinged at 3 a.m. And now they're complaining about 7 a.m. being too early. So I was wondering like how granularly configured you guys have it.
Yeah, I fielded those complaints too. It was just like, I don't know. Every morning I wake up and there's numerous emails that are sent. So if you can put a do not disturb setting on your phone if that's a concern, but we cannot cater to people who want to have their phone next to their ear but do not want to put a do not disturb on.
Since we have a public school district in our system, they want those messages to go before the school staff arrives at the school. And some of those school staff members get there between 6:30 and 7. So I figured there isn't that much of a difference between them getting sent out like at 2:30 or 3:30 or whenever it is that they go out. And I used to have in Koha, I don't think I have it in, I guess it's not in Aspen because I never configured anything like it. But I used to have instructions on the page where you can turn messaging on and off that would say, here's a link to how to set the do not disturb features on your iPhone, and here's a link for if you have an Android phone, how to set the do not disturb features. And that's what I always encourage people to do. It's like that was one of the first things I did when I got my first cell phone is how do I make this not ring between 10 p.m. and like 6 a.m. And people don't understand how to, that they don't have to have their phone ring at 2 a.m.
Yeah, so I've been back and forth. We're gonna talk about it at our users groups next week, but I'm like, so we moved it to 7 a.m. because the thought being, people would get their overdue notices around the time that they're getting ready to go to work, and then they would remember to bring their books in town when that happened. But I I'm sure the cron drops can be set like by day of the week or something. So I was gonna try and see if we could do like weekends later than weekdays or something like that to sort of concede because I'm a marshmallow. But we might just turn it into a patron training topic instead. I don't know. Haven't decided.
How many messages of these are you getting? So I've gotten
Well,
like 5 over the course of 12 years. So I'm just like, I'm not, with the amount of patrons we're serving, it's just like we can't cater to individual patrons on this level.
I've heard from at least 5 different libraries that their patrons are complaining about it. And it didn't start until we switched to Twilio, which means
Mm.
our text messaging is working better because people are getting woken up by our text, which
I
they're
can see
not
the
used to.
text coming in later. That makes sense more than like an email notification.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
Because
I
I
guess
think the reasoning to send all those things is just so you're not interfering with those processes are like eating up.
bogging down resources. Yeah,
Yeah, eating up resources. But if it's you've got a third party thing, then that seems less. I don't see how that would bog down Koha at all. So you could have them text at 10 a.m. and that wouldn't be a problem.
How are you liking Twilio? I didn't know you guys were moving to that.
yeah, we've had Twilio since
Or
last
maybe I did know
September.
and I'd forgotten.
Yeah, we talked about it the last kegger a little bit.
The
Um,
last one here at NEKLS or the one at
the one in KLA,
KLA?
the
Okay.
KLA, yeah. It's going well. I mean, it works way better than the email to SMS stuff. Well, like deliverability is way up. The only problem is it costs more because, email to SMS doesn't cost anything other than pain and suffering. But
And that it doesn't work.
yeah. Um, we like it. It's the patrons are getting their messages. We haven't turned on the interactivity plugin because that again would increase the cost. But as far as deliverability, it's way better than what we had before.
So,
We're averaging maybe like less than $100 a month on it, so it's not
oh, that's,
unreasonable.
yeah. What were the steps that you had to take to add it to Koha? I seem to remember somebody talking about Twilio. They had to file some paperwork
Yeah,
with the federal government.
you have to purchase the number from Twilio. We purchased a toll-free number, so if it depends on what kind of number you purchase. The toll-free has a different sort of authorization than a regular number does, and you have to go through steps to like prove that you're not sending spam, basically, that you're a legit thing before your number can get authorized. We went with the toll free so that if people call the numbers, they don't get charged for it, which they do occasionally. I can go through and see where people have called. And I set up like an autoresponder that just says, please call your library directly if they call the number. But yeah, that's the nastiest part of it is getting the phone number thing set up. And then I ended up having to give Kyle access to the back end because he had to do something on the back end of Twilio to get it fully connected for us. So there are a couple extra steps, but the for us the authorization step of the number, it says it takes weeks or months or whatever, but we had it within a week. So all I had to
Okay.
do was send in some screenshots of our opt-out screen on the OPAC and show like the main thing is you have to prove that the patron or the end user is fully in control of whether they get the messages or not.
So what's the interactivity plugin?
So the interactivity plugin lets patrons respond back to the text messages, and then it just automatically does stuff in Koha. So like if they want to renew an item, they can reply back with the barcode number, and then it'll renew it if renewals are available. There's a list of different functions in it that they can do to talk back and forth with Koha without staff interaction. The problem is every back and forth costs money, so
Oh.
we aren't budgeted for it, so that's why we haven't turned it on. But I do have interest in it, so we may in the future give it a try.
Are you using the voice message portion of the voice message stuff?
No, not at all. We've only set up SMS, but you can. Twilio has the phone option as well. That's a separate
Yeah,
plugin, I think.
yeah. CIN in Idaho uses the voice option. I remember Christopher talking a lot about picking the right accent,
Yeah, you
right?
can pick different voices and stuff.
Getting the right voice that sounded most reasonable. So
I put a link to the interactivity plugin, so they can see their checkouts, they can see their fines, get a list of waiting holds, some different stuff, account level stuff. Renewing would be the main thing that we would want it for, I think, because that'll save staff time in the long run.
cool. Well, right when you started talking, I was about to say, does anybody else have any other issues? Now we're out of time. It's 11:59 here. Is that anybody have anything to say in the last minute? Well, I guess we'll see y'all next month. It's good seeing y'all.
Yeah, thank you.